right, a lot going on, believe it or not, with multiple recent polls showing a majority of Americans supporting the House impeachment inquiry. Late last night, the House Rules Committee advanced the Democratic resolution laying out the next steps. The House is expected to begin debate on the resolution shortly after 9 a.m. this morning before voting on the measure. Rules Committee Chairman Jim McGovern says the resolution sets the rules for open hearings as the impeachment probe moves into a public phase. According to Politico, top Democrats are expecting few directions during today's vote and few, if any, defections, and few, if any, Republicans are expected to vote for the resolution. During last night's markup by the Rules Committee, Republicans spent nearly 4 hours attempting to pitch their own changes to the measure. Politico notes that all of the GOP amendments, which focused entirely on the process, were rejected on party lines.
I think it's a sad day for the Rules Committee and for the institution of the House of Representatives. In my view, it's not a fair process. It's not an open process, and it's certainly not been a transparent process. It's been limited and closed. And frankly, I think we're moving toward a preordained result.
I mean, if you think this is fair, this is not fair at all.
They're trying to create something new that I think is just substandard and dangerous to the presidency.
The process seems to be treating Chairman Schiff as though he were a de facto special prosecutor, notwithstanding the fact that he's a partisan member of Congress whose strange behavior has already including fabricating a lengthy quotation and attributing it to President Trump during an official hearing, which he was sharing. No due process now, maybe some later, but only if we feel like it, is not a standard that should ever be applied to any American, and it should not be applied here to the President of the United States.
You know, Willie, it's so sad, actually. These poor Republicans. I mean, can you imagine if you had to defend Donald Trump? It is just.
But you don't have to.
No, but they think they have to defend Donald Trump, and so they'll set up a straw man, and then Nancy Pelosi will knock it down. They'll set up another, knock it out. All they can do is argue process, and even when Nancy Pelosi and the rest of the Democrats take those excuses away, they come up with others. And they've been whining. We need a vote on this impeachment inquiry. She finally gives them a vote. And they say, well, it's taken them too long to give us a vote. Right. And now they're offended about that. So this sort of whining, though, let's keep this in perspective. What you heard in the Rules Committee, that was actually the sound of minorities in the Rules Committee talking over the past 200 years. If the Rules Committee has been around, in fact, that long, because that's just what they do in the Rules Committee. The Rules Committee is set up for the majority of the House to set the rules for the debate. And same as it ever was. You know the Republicans have a losing fight on their hands because all they can do is talk about process.
And remember, this is Nancy Pelosi calling Republicans bluff because their argument was, well, this is not an official inquiry. So Nancy Pelosi says, OK, we'll have the vote and we'll make it official. And now they've moved down the road to another argument about that. Obviously, as you say, Joe, they want to argue process because the substance gets more damning by the day. When you have Colonel Vindman's testimony, which I know we'll get into, that he went to a White House lawyer immediately on July 25th because he was concerned about what the president said on the phone to President Zelensky of Ukraine. And that White House lawyer, according to reports, said, let's get that transcript locked away so people can't see it into this top secret server. We'll get to that in just a minute. But Garrett Haake, walk us through what we're going to see on Capitol Hill today. What's the House going to be doing?
The House should vote on this impeachment resolution in the early part of the day as part of a normal vote series. It speaks to the lack of drama around the whip count, that we're not expecting this to be something that drags on late into the day. Democrats are hoping they can keep basically everybody on board for this. It'll be a party line vote. You don't anticipate any Republicans coming across the aisle, in part because this is a process vote. You're not really making a moral argument about the value of impeachment here or not. What you're doing is setting up a roadmap, setting up essentially a calendar with no no dates on it for how the impeachment inquiry will continue. And you played that Mitch McConnell quote. He's at least right about the very first part of it. What this resolution does is it will elevate the role of Adam Schiff significantly. This will put the ball in the hand of Schiff to go forward with the Intel Committee now driving the inquiry for the next couple of weeks. They will have the first open hearings. They will then be required to produce a report to hand over to the Judiciary Committee, and it'll be left to the Judiciary Committee to put a bow on however many articles of impeachment they decide to produce a little bit further down the line. Only then will you see involvement from the White House counsel's office, see something that looks a little bit more like the hearings folks saw during the Clinton impeachment. But for the next few weeks, this will continue to be Adam Schiff's show as they move into public hearings.
And with Adam Schiff taking the lead here, I mean, that elevates the person that the president has sort of tried to make the face of this impeachment inquiry, that he feels like he can effectively paint Schiff. He likes to go back to him, claim that he misquoted him in that testimony and so on, that he's not acting in good faith. Garrett, two questions for you. First, is there any sense of Democrats here who aren't going to support this inquiry? And with this particular committee these committees running the show, doesn't this sideline some of the president's most fiercest allies, the Jim Jordans, the Mark Meadows of the world, who have been out there, so strongly defending him?
Yeah, look, if you're setting your lineup here, you talk about the president wants Adam Schiff. Well, the Democrats don't want to see Mark Meadows and Jim Jordan and some of the other folks who have been the president's biggest defenders. They are on two of the other committees that have been handling the process behind closed doors so far, but not on the Intel Committee. If you're the Democrats, you like your lineup card here, Intel Committee members versus Intel Committee members, perhaps a bit better than you do if it were one or all of these other committees who've been handling it, or if it were the Judiciary Committee, which has been since time immemorial the most partisan committee in Congress. So you set that aside. As for wayward Democrats, they may still lose some votes here. There have been about a half a dozen Democrats who have yet to say anything supportive about the impeachment inquiry. Only one of those that I've seen so far, Joe Cunningham from South Carolina, has indicated that he might vote for this resolution today. But Democrats can afford to lose a couple of votes on the process part of this here and let us see how these arguments continue to play out.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.